Okay, good morning, and welcome to Module 7. I know I didn't do a video here for Lesson 1, but hopefully Lesson 2 video will help you go back and do Lesson 1. If not, please come see me, and I'll help explain it to you. So Lesson 2, we're going to be talking about square roots, and we're going to be talking about doing square roots without the use of a calculator, okay? So what we want to do to start off is it's going to be helpful for us to make a list of the perfect squares, at least the first several perfect squares. And what I mean by that are numbers you can take the square root of and you can get an integer out. So perfect square numbers. Here's our list. So we're going to make a list here. So let's start with 4, because 2 times 2 is 4. And then the next one, 3 times 3 is 9. 4 times 4 is 16. 5 times 5 is 25. 36. 49. 64. 81. 100. 121. 144. And some of you may know this one, 13 times 13 is 169. Okay, and that's as far as we're going to go. They go much, much further, but for our purposes, this will get us pretty far in what we need to go. And yeah, these keep going forever and ever and ever, but we'll just go up to 169. Square root of that is 13. Okay, so let's start just with talking about a regular square root. So the first one says determine the positive square root of 81. If it exists, explain. Positive square root of 81 is 9. And to explain that, we're going to say because 9 times 9 equals 81. That's a perfect reason. Now, the reason in here that it's saying positive square root is because technically there's also a negative square root, because negative 9 times negative 9 is also 81. So there's really a positive square root, 9, and a negative square root, negative 9. But for our purposes, we're just going to be focusing on the positive square roots. Same thing here with number 2, but what I want to do is skip to number 3 for the purposes of the video. Determine the positive square root of negative 36 if it exists. Explain. So this is asking you, what's the square root of negative 36? So what times what, being the same number, equals negative 36? Well, the only way to get negative 36 and have the same number is to do 6 times 6. 6 times negative 6, excuse me, but that's not the same number. 6 and negative 6 are not the same. So 6 times 6 is 36, and negative 6 times negative 6 is still positive 36. So there's no way we can get this. So our answer here is no solution, because we really can't get that. So that's the first thing that we want to talk about. Now, the next thing that we want to talk about is actually on the next page. I'm sorry I'm skipping around, but for the purposes of the video, since I only have a short length of time, we're going to be doing that. So let's go to page 9 here. And I'm going to keep my list of perfect squares next to me so that I can refer to them. Hopefully I am. Maybe I am. Oh, that'll work. Just like this. And maybe a piece of white paper underneath there so that you can see it. Sorry for the technical difficulties. Okay, now I think we can see everything we need to see. Okay, so what we want to do is, it says determine the positive square root of the number given. So right here, we have a list of square roots. Square root of 49, square root of 62, square root of 122, square root of 400. Okay, square root of 49 is just like we've done before. That's a perfect square. It's right here. And so we want to know what times what equals 49. The answer to that is just 7. That's pretty self-explanatory. However, Number 6 is where it starts to get a little more difficult. And in this section, we're not using a calculator because there are sections on the M-Step and on the SAT where that calculator icon is gone and you have to be able to answer a question without it. So square root of 62 is next. That is not a perfect square number. It's not in our list over here. So what times what is going to give us 62? And we know it's going to be a decimal. So here's what we do. We look at our list of perfect squares and we say, okay, 62 is going to fall right here between 49 and 64. So how do I get 49? Well, I do 7 times 7. How do I get 64? Well, I do 8 times 8. So right away now, we know that the square root of 62, this is not our final answer, but we know it's going to be between 7 and 8. Okay, so we know it's going to be 7 point something. Now, we want to get a little bit further than that. We want to know more than just between 7 and 8. Let's narrow it down even further. Is it going to be between 7 and 7.5? Or is it going to be between 7.5 and 8? That's our next question. So this is how we determine even further where it's going to be between. Is 62 closer to 8 times 8, 64? Or is it closer to 7 times 7? We got to ask ourselves. And most of us can easily say it's definitely closer to 64 because the distance between 62 and 64 is only 2. The distance between 49 and 62 is 13. So it's much closer to this. So we know, since it's closer to our answer to 8 times 8, it's going to fall in this interval of 7.5 to 8. Now, the third thing we're going to be asked to do here is to create a number line and put it on the number line. So the numbers we need are 7 and 8 and 7.5, the middle. So our square root of 62, we know, is going to be between 7.5 and 8. We already determined that right there. So our dot's going to go somewhere in this spot. Now, the question is it going to go right in the middle, or is it going to go closer to 7.5 or closer to 8? Well, you look at this again, and 62 is only 2 off of 64. So we think it's going to be closest to 8. So what you do to put it on a number line is then you make a dot close to 8, and then you mark that spot with an arrow and you say that is the square root of 62. Like that. Okay, let's do one more example just to make sure we know what's going on. Okay, square root of 122. What is the square root of 122? Without a calculator, that is a little bit difficult to determine. So we look at our list of perfect squares again. Where is 122 going to fall? Between what two integers is that going to fall? So let's take a look. 122, here's 121. So 122 is going to fall between these two. Well, how do you get 121? 11 times 11. And 144 is 12 times 12. So we know this answer is going to be between 11 and 12, somewhere. But again, we want to narrow it down even further. Is it going to be between 11 and 11.5? Or is it going to be between 11.5 and 12? That's the question. Okay, 122 now. The distance between 121 and 122, that's close. That's only one distance. The distance between 122 and 124, that's pretty far. That's 22 away. So we know it's going to be between 11 and 11.5. Now, when we go to put that on a number line, okay, 11 we need 12. We're going to need 11.5. Okay, now the question is, we know our dot is going to fall between 11 and 11.5, but where is it going to lean? Is it going to go right in the middle of those two, or is it going to be closer to 11 or 11.5? Well, let's look. This is mighty close to 11 times 11. 11 times 11 is 121. So we know it's going to be very close to 11. So we're going to put our dot as close to 11 without being on it as we can. We'll make an arrow, and we're going to say this is the square root of 122, and that's how we put it on our number line. Okay? And then, again, number 8, we'll just finish this up here with these. Square root of 400. Sometimes, okay, well, 2 times 2 is 4, so square root of 400 is going to be 20. And so sometimes we get these exact numbers which help our chi, you know, and make us feel much better about it. So which of these numbers in exercise 5 through 8 are not perfect squares? It's obvious. Those are 6 and 7 are not perfect squares. And the way you tell is when you go to multiply something by itself to get it, it's going to have to be a decimal. Okay, so that's pretty much the entire lesson today. The homework is on the next page, page 10, and I'm looking for you to do numbers 1 through 8 here. And also, I'd like a number line for each of these as well, even though it doesn't say that you need a number line. The only different one is number 7, because it gives you a number line and it gives you 6 different numbers. You have to do them individually and put them on the number line. So, again, use your list of perfect squares. For example, square root of 32, that's going to fall between 36 and 49. Well, 36 is 6 times 6. 49 is 7 times 7, so we know that square root of 32 is going to be between 6 and 7. You're probably going to want to make your line in the middle there, and then determine is it closer to the 6 or closer to the 7, and label it. So you should have 6 different labels there on number 7. Okay, if you have further questions on square roots, please see me. Again, this should help you do lesson 1. With the Pythagorean theorem mixed in with all of this. So, again, see me at lunch or before school if you have further questions. Hope you have a great day.